with a review on the TMNT by Playmates. I know you see in front of you the original Turtles. Um, and these are the 2002 series Turtles. Um, Overall, I've been a Turtles fan for a long time. Here are the best turtle figures they have ever made, period. The NECA Turtles. Not the most durable, but the best, articulation, best design. But, in all the years that I've been collecting the Turtles, it seems like every couple years they give me what it is I've been looking for in an upgrade of the figure or figures. Now we get a new group. And in this new group, this comes from the Nickelodeon series. You guys already saw my Leonardo review, so I'm only going to gloss over him, but now I have the whole group. This series does a couple things that I've always wanted them to do. And it was kind of cool because the, I think it was the 2007 movie, kind of did that. The CGI movie, TMNT. They made them look a little bit more like teenagers and less like giant bodybuilding Ninja Turtles. You know what I mean? And this series went back to that. They've got the big hands, the big feet, the elongated, kind of smaller muscles, and they have softer features, so you kind of feel like, oh, they are teenagers, They're not these super roided up, and not to say that it's wrong, but now you're kind of seeing them a little bit younger, especially with Michelangelo. Mike I had fun with because all he needed was Chucks with the chain, and there you go. Which I'm surprised they didn't do that, considering that the NECA series did. Donatello is pretty badass. He had one glaring issue, and if you look at this picture, you can tell that I fixed that one glaring issue, and I will go over that when we get to him in a little while. Raphael, nothing to change. The one thing that is missing, I will show you when we get to his little individual area, but he is a pretty cool figure. And then, of course, you have my favorite turtle of all of them, Leonardo, who just looks badass, period. Not much else to ask for. On a whole, though, I have to say that the turtles need, I wish they had better articulation, but, what they have works. And I'll go more into detail about what it is that I think should have changed. But they maintain the knee pads that they had in every iteration except for the first cartoon version. They have added 3 toes, so they have 3 fingers and 3 toes, which makes sense because turtles technically are 4-legged creatures. Some people complained about that, but it's not big enough of an issue to complain about. So, yeah, we're going to start with the nunchucker, Mikey. Michelangelo is an awesome figure. They did a good job making him, I don't know, he's badass. And the one thing that he needed was nunchucks that had a chain. The NECA version had it. I've seen tons of people do it with their customs. I gave the 2002 Mike one of my NECA, nunchucks because of the chain, And before that, I had given him the nunchucks that you'll see in a second. These are what he came with. And these look more like something that the original Turtles would have used. I mean, they're orange in color. They're stuck in that pose. The one kind of, they're sculpted in a direction, facing a direction, bent, like that. So, I figure in that static position, they would go better with them. I mean, look, it looks like they came with them. And then you look at this and it's like, wow, that's official. That looks like what a Ninja Turtle would use. These chucks came from my Tekken 3 Forest Law figure. And I kept, one of them was out on display. And the other one was, you can tell because one's rusted and one's dirty and one's really shiny. One was on display with one of my Bruce Lee figures, and one of them was put away. But I always had in mind that I would use these for the next Michelangelo figure I got. And I mean, they're a perfect fit, You really couldn't have asked for something better. As far as weapons that he came with, though, he came with the, Kusurigama, and a bunch of shuriken. I'm going to fill in the Kusurigama with the chain. But the shuriken are awesome. I love the fact that he came with a pair of new school ones and a pair of old school ones that are really reminiscent of the. I had so many of these shuriken lying around the house. My mom and dad used to be pissed. Mom vacuumed up so many of them, but with the original turtles on their weapon racks, they had those. Forgive all the banging in the background if you hear that. I live across the street from a high school and they're practicing right now. But yeah, these things are nice. I mean, you see that, and then you look at the new ones. You're like, damn, they did a good job. Those are really, they're unique, and they don't look like the ones that come with any of the other turtles, which is something I really dig. Um, and I think you could actually store them on the weapons racks, maybe on the newer or the older ones. I don't know. But like I said, a chain will be going on Nekasurigama, but it's pretty, it looks the part. The comma is long enough, and then that weight on the end is perfect. Next up, we have my homeboy and the first turtle I ever got. We have Donatello. Donatello is one of my favorites. I dig his look. I dig the staff. That was the first weapon I ever learned how to use. Um, I like the fact that he has the ability. All the figures have the ability to actually hold the staff the proper way, which is nice. I kind of wish, when I look at his face, I kind of wish they didn't do like the NECA figure and once again give him an expression that I think fits Leonardo more. But whatever. At some point, maybe I'll switch up their heads. I don't know, but I really dig how he looks, especially this iteration. I only wish they put pockets on his belt because I always imagined Donatello to be um, a little more tactical and have kind of a utility belt. Anyway, the first thing I have to point out on all these Donatello figures is his staff. The first one, they got it right. Perfect staff. The second one, I had to use the replacement staff because you know how they usually make Don come with two staffs. So I took one of the staffs from the 2002 Donatello and I gave him to the NECA one. I didn't like the way the NECA one looked. It was too fat and too just oddly shaped. It didn't strike me as Donatello's actual staff, so I was like, no. Anyhow, the this staff was longer and it fit and it looked better and it fit the size of the character. But, typically that seemed to have been a problem except with the 2007 movie and the 2002 figure. This is the bow that came with this current Donatello, and that completely does not work. It's too small, too short. I mean, it fits in his hands well, which is nice. It's the right thickness. It's just way too short. He needed a staff that was at least his height or just a little bit taller. Because, I mean, typically that's how a bow staff, how a staff works. It's either going to be the height of the user, unless you're really short, then you got a lot of range, but you need to be able to get range from your relaxed position, which is what I had him standing in when you saw the first picture. So I took the 2007 weapon and put it with this new Donatello. And I wrapped the handle or wrapped the center, and it worked. It looks a whole lot more like what I've been saying. He can get range on his attacks. I mean, that's what Donatello does. That's why you use a bow, is you attack from a distance. You don't use a bow that's too short for you to actually get any distance on, your attackers or on, whoever you're fighting. So that was an easy mod that I was happy with. His weapons, they look nice, but the best thing in his whole arsenal is the the 3-section staff. I love it, or segmented staff. The Naginata is not that cool to me. I'm like, it needs to be longer, just like his bow needed to be longer. It didn't make sense to me that they would somehow shrink down something that was supposed to be, larger. And they did the same thing here. And I know the packaging is smaller, but if they had it going across from one corner to the other, you could have fit it in there, I replaced it with another 2007 TMNT weapon, and I love it. I fucking love it. It just looks the part. I gave him a trident or a spear, depending on how you see it, and it's the right size, right length, and it looks more official. One of the things I liked when I saw these new turtles was that they were using bladed edges on the characters who typically had, dull weapons. I saw images of Michelangelo with the Kasurigama, and I was like, okay, cool, that makes sense. And then I saw images of Donatello with the Naginata, and I'm like, that makes sense. But you get the toy, and it's less than stellar. So I was like, you know what? Like I said, I'm into martial arts stuff, so I happen to have a lot of martial arts related figures besides this. I'm still gonna get back on those Soda Street Fighter figures because you guys need to see all of those. But anyway, I dug what happened here. I put the chain on his segmented staff, or his 3-section staff, and I like it. It's the most dynamic weapon that he comes with. It kind of would have made sense if Michelangelo came with this, but it is a staff. You know what I mean? It's a staff. It's supposed to be a staff first. So, it's cool that it came with him. I have another one from a Bruce Lee figure that probably will look better because it's longer. All the segments are longer. But, I mean, as you can see, it's a really dynamic looking weapon, and it's nice for, posing options for your figure. These are the big old frisbee shuriken. I love these things. I don't know how real they are. I've never seen these in real life. I do have some shuriken. I trained a little bit in ninjutsu for a while, and I have some stuff left over from all that. I mean, I didn't really like it. The movements were kind of strange and whatnot, but I have some shuriken, and I've never seen shuriken like this, but I assume that these are for serious range, hence the whole frisbee look, and it'd be doing some serious cutting with those buzzsaw edges. And they look nice. I mean, they're kind of unique to Donatello, because the other guys don't have those at all. Now we come to Raphael. Originally, I was going to do 2 reviews, or do a review for each of them as I get them. So this ended up being the portion of the review that is from the previous review, because I actually shot the picture. So I've got a ton of information and a ton of things to look at on Raphael. As you can see, they went in the classic direction. He kind of has an Eric Larson Ninja Turtles kind of feel to him, with those really angular size. And I like how they have the big crack in his front shell, showing that he's taken some damage during fights. He's a little reckless. I just dig the way that they managed to, and they did this with all of them. I dig how they managed to, get differences out of using the same base body. And, the more I look at these figures, there are some differences that kind of show that maybe their bodies are the same, but all the limbs are, they're fairly different in certain ways. I know their arms are definitely different. I do wish, and this is what I was saying earlier, is I really do wish that some of these figures I wish they all had more articulation, especially in their legs. And I wish they didn't have the Y joints in their leg. The Y joint for their hips is an upside down Y that runs from the neck all the way down to the hips. And it doesn't allow for very good outward motion with your legs. So if you want them to throw a kick, they're going to look kind of goofy. You have to set it up, then twist it in the right direction, and then open it. But anyway, back to Raphael. You can see they gave him a little fang on one side, or canine, a pronounced canine. You can see he's got the roughest looking skin of the bunch. And that was another thing. There's not a lot of paint on there for their skin. There's not a lot of paint besides the actual color of the skin that the figure seemed to be molded in. His shell has a little bit of wear and tear on it, in comparison to the others. The belt works the old school way. He puts his weapons behind instead of in front or on the sides, like previous versions of the figure. I don't know. I think they make more sense to be up like that, because you could just reach behind and then pull them out. But the way that they stay the best, because they don't fall out easily, but they can fall out. They stay in the best this way. So, put them that way. But you're open, you have options. And I figured I would show them, because I've seen a lot of reviews where people didn't really point out what, you can do with them. Now, I dig these weapons, because Raph's game is to take other people's weapons away from them. And I stand corrected on his shuriken. These are his jute, or jite. These are used to defend against, they usually break swords. You know what I mean? They break swords, or you use them to take the swords out of people's hands. I dig them. Most of you guys, if you play video games, last time you saw these were in Street Fighter Alpha. These are what Sodom used. Um, if you watch a lot of kung fu movies, a lot of times when they have mafia, ninja, etc., or yakuza, not mafia, yakuza and ninja and whatnot, you see like gang members using these against the gangs that carry, their swords. Now these, I was kind of confused because these are some Chinese weapons. These are called Fu Dao. Um, I don't understand why they gave these to, Raphael, except for the fact that they are weapons used that typically you can take other people's weapons from them. Um, but they don't fit with the whole ninja thing. If you know your martial arts, then you know your weapons. Most people, you have some type of exposure to weapons, and this doesn't match the whole ninja vibe. But they look cool, and worst come to worst, I can give these to some other character, maybe give them to, I don't know, some Chinese wushu person. I don't know. I'm not saying that because they're ninjas they are limited, because the segmented staff is also a weapon that's commonly used in Chinese martial arts. So I don't know. I like it though. They look nice. They're pretty sturdy. You could see that if you actually play with these, which they are created for play, they will stand up to whatever you have to. You put the turtles up against, which is nice. Um, I dig the fact that they're not very heavy, so you can definitely get off some good poses with these things. Now, this is where I stood corrected. Remember earlier I said that Mike's nunchuck or Mike's shuriken are pretty unique to him. I forgot. Raphael had exactly the same ones. His are just silver. So I take that back. They look almost like glaives. I should have said that before, but they are shuriken. Um, they almost could be Fu shuriken, but they're not big enough. But they're nice. I like them. I like them a lot. They look more, I don't know, I don't want to say tactical, but they look very, they look very much like stuff that ninjas would be using. It looks on point with the whole ninja theme. Um, I noticed that in the reviews, people don't really go over these things, and I have to, because this is one of those things that if you collected turtles back in the day, you had a shitload of weapons that didn't make sense, like fucking maces that were made out of armadillos and shuriken that were like starfish and shit like that. So it's nice to actually have weapons that fit the turtles, that don't have any goofiness to them, that actually are ninja weapons. So props to Playmates for all these ninja weapons that they gave us. Props for making their weapons on point and a little bit different, from what we've had in the past. And, props to them for, doing the extra research, if they did research. Maybe this is all because it's the Nickelodeon version. I do have to say, though, that one thing about this Nickelodeon version that I'm digging is that the ninja themes seem to be more at the forefront. There's no questioning what's a ninja weapon and what's not, unless you really know your weapons, which I know my weapons. But the this Raphael is pretty on point. Like I said, his the posability, I wish he was a little bit more posable. I don't need a whole bunch of wrist articulation, but I would have liked a double jointed elbow, because that could have been a really fat joint. That sounds so funny, but you could have had a really thick elbow joint, like a double elbow joint, and it would have been strong, because if it's bigger, it's usually stronger. I dig their feet, the huge feet. There's a lot of stability. I mean, the three toes don't really bother me, because the last one is so small, it's almost non-existent in a way. You don't really pay much attention to it. You can do a lot of poses where they're standing on one foot. Um, I don't know. I just dig the retooling of these figures. Now there are some things that I have to compare. I have to bring up from other figures, because like Leonardo's hands, the way that they're tilted, he can point his swords forward, whereas Raph can't. But Raph has something else going on that they kind of hid in there that he can do that all the other turtles can't, and that has to do with how he holds his sai. Um, they sculpted his hand with like a little space, and it's only on his left hand. So, You can't do this on both, but you can hold the size in the alternate, grip. And you often see him do it. It's not very practical because you need to be catching things in between there. But if you were stabbing, it's perfect for that. Um, so you can get off some. You can recreate a lot of the poses that you've seen Raphael in. So they got the whole badass factor off with this figure, and it's pretty nice. Um, I'm gonna go in here though, and I have to do a little comparison. Now, these are all the versions of Raphael that matter. The movie version doesn't count. The Next Mutation version doesn't count because those figures were too soft and strange and whatnot. But as you can see, design-wise, Raph seems to be the one who all of the details have stayed. You know what I mean? Like, because originally all the turtles wore red. So since the original design, Raph didn't lose anything. Same red bandana. He even somewhat, his figures still remain similar with the expression. They got the grimace going on, which is pretty cool. I'll give them that. The NECA one is still my favorite. The knee pads and the belt. Pretty much. He's always had a tied belt. The color varies, but it's always been the same, pretty much, And then now he gets the movie style belt. Knee pads, only at one point in the series did Raph have, a colored knee pad. As far as his feet go, come on, they've been the same forever. Now this is where the most variation happens, and this is in the size. You had somewhat angular, old school looking ones on the old school Raph. Then the newer one, you got an update of the exact same thing. Then on the NECA one, you got more realistic looking size. That's pretty much what they look like in real life. Then in the newer one, you got the angular ones that the only artist I can think of that used to do this was Eric Larson. He used to do it all the time. And actually, if I think a little bit more, the video games, the old Turtles in Time and, Turtles the arcade games, for whatever reason, Raph's size looked like that. But the blade or the point was really short. But, this is the variation of the Sai over time in this series. Now, the NECA Raphael can hold his size in both hands in the stabbing position, whereas the new one can only do it in one hand. Like I said, I don't know how practical it is, but it's nice that they did it, for stabbing. And it's cool, and, you can get these poses off where it looks natural. But you see how I have it positioned, you can just look dead at him and you can recreate some of the poses you've seen in comics and stuff. With this one, I had to do some photographical trickery to get you to see his face in the same way that you saw Raph's face on the NECA figure, because of the lack of articulation. You see how he has a wrist joint, so it allows him to actually bend his hand, and his elbow allows for a further bend than that figure, so you can kind of get him to hold his hand straight up. But all in all, like I said, this is another stellar Raphael figure. And it seems like over time he's been getting more and more articulation. That stopped at the NECA figure. But I hear they're going to go back to that with the classics, the TMNT classics, which I'm only going to get Leonardo because those things are $20 a pop, whereas these guys were $8.99. So, And then this was what I was talking about earlier. The only thing that would have set this figure off is a fist dagger. They didn't give him a fist dagger. Kind of like, seriously, dude? We love that shit. Anyway, on to Leonardo. These are the versions of Leonardo that actually are worth a damn. Now, the only thing that, I need to go over is I didn't compare as hard in my review because I was just amped about having this figure. I mean, I did compare him to a whole bunch of other Leonardo figures, but, the big thing is it's posability, Can you recreate poses with this Leonardo the same way you could with the NECA one, or can you create the dynamic poses that you were able to do with, the NECA one, or with the TMNT 2002 version? You kind of can. Excuse me for all the sniffling, man. I caught a serious cold in the last couple days, but the NECA one is the best as far as posability goes. I'm gonna, like I said in the previous portion, I'm gonna see how well the classics work when I pick up the Classics Leonardo, because I will be comparing him to the NECA one, since that's the best articulation that we've ever had so far. Um, but this Leo is just thorough, you know. The 2002 one, he looks really cool. It's just he's not very posable. He still carries the trends of the old school Turtles, where he's stuck kind of in an action pose, you know. So you can only do so much. And you know, as someone who was collecting Marvel Legends back then and collecting, you know, I think DC Superheroes was out back then too. I wanted more posability. Now the old school ones, we took what we got. This was like my fourth Leonardo figure because I played with it so hard. I mean, his arms busted off and shit, you know, so I'm not looking for posability here. What we got was a likeness of the character from the TV show as he appeared in the TV show, with a little tweak on his belt. And I like it. It's not, there's no issue, you know, with the design. It's just no posability. Now this one, you get a healthy dose of the playability and posability. So you can recreate some of the poses that you can, the poses you can get with the NECA figure. You also get the dynamism that you have with the NECA figure and the 2002 figure. It's not like he's just this static, boring action pose figure. You know, and that's something most of us hate. You know, you can create the action poses here, and you can pretty much take whatever your imagination can dish out. The NECA figure just looks the best as far as getting into poses. The poses look super natural. Wow. They don't look supernatural. They look really natural with the NECA figure. It's just, I don't know. There's not much else to ask for. You know, this Leo can do some of that stuff. And because he has ginormous, flat feet, it's easy to get him to stand, because all you have to do is twist the foot the right way, and there you go. With these two guys, it was always kind of a pain in the ass because you had to find the right balance, you know? And I'm so glad that they threw that shit out the window, because it was fun for the time because we have imaginations, but we need to be able to do this on a regular basis with whatever it is we're collecting. So I am 100% cool with the fact that mostly whatever the NECA figure can do, this new Leo can do. One thing that I was geeked out about with the NECA figure is the fact that the NECA figure can hold one of his swords with both hands. Now this Leo figure, I mean, you see Leo usually fight with one sword. I mean, he's a ninja. Could Leo do it? These guys can't. You see them looking at each other like, yeah, they definitely can't. Nothing you could do could get you to, I mean, you'd have to redo the whole figure, you know, in sand and blah, 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 and do all kinds of stuff. But this Leo can hold his swords with both hands, which is awesome. So he can you know, hold with both hands, you know, hold one sword with both hands, which is nice. I mean, it's not as perfect as the NECA one, because you can clearly see the NECA one was engineered a little bit better, but you can get that off, and you could probably play with him that way. You know what I mean? So it's not a bad, you know, mid-ground or middle ground. So as you see the turtles together, they just look badass. And I love how small Mikey is. It's awesome. They did a great job bringing back that nostalgia from the original series, you know? I saw these, and right now we are like, we're in bill paying mode because I've got this, my wife and I have a kid on the way. So technically we didn't have time for this, but we both were geeking out in Target, and I had to pick these guys up. So, you know, I'm glad that they were able to, you know, get us back in that mode. It works really well. I'm happy with them. I have no issues with them. And I don't think you'll have any issues either. This looks like one time that a company was actually paying attention to what the fans had been saying, and they implemented the majority of the things they heard that we all had in common. And, you know, this is how you do it. So now I have more turtles to add to my turtles collection. And that makes me happy, because I've been collecting turtles for a long time. And it's nice to be able to go back to something so old school and kind of still be able to find the same quality and get that same feeling from those figures. So remember, these guys are in stores now They are $8.99 at Target. That's where I got mine, so probably pick them up from there. That is my story. That's my review on the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles figures. I don't know. That's it for me. You guys have been great. I will be back with another review, and peace outside, folks.